Last week's video was fantastic between the anti-feminist and the feminist women. And this week we are going to do the same, but this time with men. Check it out.
Evident to me when both of y'all came up and talked was how indoctrinated into the patriarchy you are, right? You both come up and say, as men, we have to prove something. And those expectations that you put on yourself is a direct result of patriarchy and the systems that feminism is trying to dismantle.
The pressure that is put on men is not due to patriarchy. The pressure that is put on men is due to women's expectations. In all the animal kingdom, when you look at the mate selection, the women will dictate the behavior of the males. Similarly, in humans, women are dictating what type of men we should be. They are the ones that are selecting the men. And they are the ones that are pushing men to be more masculine, to be leaders. When you organize a date as a man, first of all, you have to exchange numbers, you have to exchange details about where the date is and how it's going to be organized. Secondly, you have to make sure that she knows how to dress for the occasion, because some guys are going to take her to a shitty restaurant or to a shitty bar. And if you take her to a nice bar, you need to tell her in advance. And at the end of the date, you also have to pay for the date. So all of this effort is requested by the woman. This is not something that men decide to do. It's requested by women. Today, we are at a specific time in history where hypergamy is on steroid. It means that today, the sexual marketplace, the ability for people to meet and to meet new people and to date new people is international. So you can have a man in Brazil texting a woman in Russia, and it's totally fine. And of course, women are hypergamous. It means that they are going to select the best possible men, but at the same time now, the choice is exponential because they can have a man from different countries, from different regions. And this is putting more pressure on the men. So that's not patriarchy that is putting pressure, it's hypergamy on steroid. Let's continue.
A pressing assault today in this country. They're losing their ability to compete in sports, beauty pageants, also just basic things like that to people that identify as women. And no one is talking about it. Feminists aren't talking about it. So now you have conservatives having to fight for women's equality.
Feminists are not talking about it. On the contrary, they are encouraging trans women to compete against women. They are encouraging trans women to be in women's bathroom, in women's prisons. And we have seen again and again cases of rape, cases of sexual abuse. And this is not going to slow down. With more and more children identifying as trans, this phenomenon is going to increase. If we authorize trans women to compete against biological women, what is going to happen? We've seen just a glimpse with Leah Thomas. She was way better than any woman on the pool, every single time. And she was so good that she could decide to just slow down a little bit, just to make sure that she only beats the woman by a little margin. And it is very sad to see that feminists, the ones that are supposed to be the holders of the fight to preserve women's rights, are the ones that are pushing for this agenda. And the feminists that are actually real feminists that are against this agenda are being called TERF. That's insane, because the real feminists know that this is not fair and they want to keep women's sports fair. Let's continue.
One of the paramount ideologies of, I guess, being a quote-unquote male feminist is just the ability to mind your own business. Right. Just to be able to say that this is the wrong reason to have an abortion, you're already headed down the wrong path.
Yeah. So the fact that you're a male feminist, you're not allowed to think. You're not allowed to have an opinion. Apparently, this is just something that is not necessary for male feminists. You can just mind your own business. I would like to see this guy back in the 80th, 90th centuries, during slavery. Would he be holding the same speech? Would he be using the same logic where someone is telling you That's fine. You have a slave. I have a slave. If you want to free your slave, that's your own business. The fact that I'm a slave owner gives me the ability to mind my own business? That's ridiculous. That's lunacy. At the end of the day, if you do not have principles, if you don't have critical thinking skills, then you're going to end up as this guy and as the previous slave owners, thinking that you just have to mind your own business. And a lot of people in the Second World War minded their own business as well. And we've seen what happened. Let's continue.
If a woman decides that they want to not give birth, it doesn't matter the reason. Maybe she's not wealthy enough. Maybe the father left her. There's so many reasons. And then I also look at like just gun violence and how we're like birthing kids and we raise them and send it to school knowing that it can get killed. I don't know. I would feel like
It's like not it's not the best world to be raising a child in.
Exactly.
I would love to have seen your mother say the same thing about you. It's not the right word to raise you. You probably wouldn't be there to hold this speech. If every single woman would think like that, you probably wouldn't be there. All of them, they wouldn't be there to hold this speech. And this is the ridiculous idea about it. It's not because the world is difficult that we have to just stop having babies. Everything that has been predicted according to Malthusians have been wrong. They have been proven to be wrong. No, the world is not overpopulated. That's a lie. And everyone that knows about the sociology and the economy know that this is a lie. And people think that we are living in a dangerous society. We are not living in a dangerous society. We are living in the safest society ever. We are living in the fairest society ever. And these people that have been indoctrinated don't even know about history. Do you know that back in the day, you didn't have heating? A lot of people were dying in wars. A lot of mothers were dying when delivering babies. There was no birth control. People had to work in the fields. And oftentimes, they were being killed by other people. Women were being raped all the time. That was the history. If you read about history, you will know that today we live in the best possible environment to raise a kid. And it's very concerning that the young minds, the male feminists, don't even know about history. Basic history. Josie, let's continue.
Like women should be empowered to be financially independent. Encouraged versus empowered takes a different sense of support. Speaking to how men feel the need to provide. Sometimes when a woman makes more than a man, men can feel like they're less of a man because the woman is taking more of the boss and provision kind of role in the household. So I think that it's important to be able to equip women with being able to feel like they are empowered. And that is a feminist thing because it is breaking the gender norms of what is masculine and what is feminine role.
That is just bullshit. Women want a man on their level 90% of the time. Okay? So that is translated into the woman want a man that earns at least as much as she earns. That's not coming from men. That's not men holding women down. That comes from the women themselves. They don't want to date men that earn less money. Second point, similarly, women do not want to date men that do not have a degree equivalent or higher than them. And all of these elements are part of hypergamy. So the more you're pushing women, which is exactly the case today, to be empowered, to be in high-paying jobs, the more you are reducing their ability to find a man. And that has been proven again and again. There are studies that have shown that we are going towards a mating crisis where women that are educated are going to struggle to find men. Because today the balance is 60-40 in favor of women for places in college. And it's getting worse every single day. It wouldn't be surprising in a few years women will be 70-80% of the college graduate. And what will happen in that situation? How will they be able to find a man that has the same type of degree or higher? The difference is that when men have a higher degree, they are happy to date and marry women that have a lower degree. When men make a lot of money, they are happy to marry a woman that makes less money than them. And usually when a man makes a lot of money, it is to share it with his family. It is to provide for his family. What happens when a woman makes money? The first thing that she does, she calls herself independent. The second thing that she does is that she starts spending her money on all type of things. For herself, not for the family. Because that's the difference with men and women. Men want to use their resources to provide for their family. This is why in the society, women make 80% of the consumer decisions. Because even when the man earns more money, she's the one that's going to spend the money. And the reverse is not true. When a woman makes more money, this is increasing greatly the chances of divorce. So you can empower women as much as you want. You're not going to fix the society. You're going to have more and more single women. You're going to find more and more women that cannot find a man. If that's the society you want to live, then that's fine. But you have to understand the consequences of pushing women when they are already overrepresented in college and university to study and earn more money. That's interesting. Let's continue.
When we're talking about financial literacy and financial freedom, there are a lot of women that have the ability, that decide to step back, all those types of things. None of that has to be taken away or omitted in order for them to be empowered. People should be able to do in their households what they want to do. Right. And I don't think anybody's trying to take that option away from women. I think y'all think people are, but I don't think that's really happening.
Of course it is happening. This is what stay-at-home moms keep saying every single day. As soon as they disclose the fact that they are stay-at-home mom, they get frowned upon by the rest of the women, especially the feminists. This is not something that people can be open about to be stay-at-home moms, because the society are pushing them not to be. And this thing about the choice, this is contrary to the feminist belief. Do you remember this quote from Simone de Beauvoir? No woman should be authorized to stay at home to raise their kids. Women should not have this choice, because if there's such a choice, women will make that one. That's a feminist, a notable feminist that stated it. So feminism has never been about choice. It has been about pushing women to become like men. These guys are quite funny. Let's continue.
So now, yeah, the pendulum's swinging. Maybe there are going to be some false accusations and stuff going too far. I would rather have 1 million false accusations, like over 1 million people that deserve to be in jail not being in jail.
So you prefer to have 1 million false accusations? Is that what you're saying? This is ridiculous. If false accusation had no consequences on people, why not? Do you realize the toll a false accusation has on someone? People that are accused of rape, accused of sexual assault when it was a lie, they lose their family, they lose their job, they lose their house, they lose their kid, their wife, they commit suicide. That's the reality. So it's not a question of false accusation should be fine. That's not acceptable. They should be sanctioned against people that are propagating this false accusation. You can see an example. Johnny Depp. It was falsely accused. And even before his trial, he already had lost his job. He was persona non grata in the cinema. He couldn't do any more movies. And that's a star, someone that has a lot of money. So he was able to hire an expensive lawyer and fight for the truth. What will happen to a normal guy that is falsely accused of sexual assault? He's likely to lose everything. No, false accusation is not acceptable and should not be tolerated. The second issue with false accusation is that even when you're clear and we recognize that this was a false accusation, you're never really clear. People will always have this idea that you can be a rapist, that you can be someone that committed sexual assault. And this idea will always stay in people's mind, even if you're clear, even if the justice recognizes that you're not guilty. And that's the second effect of false accusations. Let's continue.
That my dad pushed me into different things than he pushed my sister towards. I think women are raised in a way where they're not encouraged to pursue their interests. And now we're starting to get to a generation where I think that might happen, but it's going to take some time. But then
women are overrepresented in college, in universities. What are you talking about? Are you saying that women are not being pushed? What is the reality, and this is based on data, is that the vast majority of the students in college are women. And the trend is increasing again and very fast. We are pushing women to do STEM studies, even though they don't really want to do them. At the end of the day, people have to realize we are all bound by our biology. Women are more attracted to people, and men are more attracted to things. We are different. So when you want an engineer, you have more chance to find a man, because men are interested in this type of things. Women are more interested in this type of people. So when it comes to nursing, when it comes to human resources, for example, teaching, all the jobs are overrepresented by women. The reality of the matter is that object-related jobs, for example, engineer, science, tend to pay more money, and this is why men get paid more. But women are being pushed a lot to go into these high-paying jobs, and they are overrepresented in college. That's the reality. It's not based on emotion. It's based on stats and data. Juicy. Let's continue.
The idea that women are tasked with their own social context and creating the environments for themselves that they want to operate within, even though they are continually stripped of power, is infuriating and is disrespectful. It echoed the sentiment of black people keeping themselves down because of the acknowledgement of racism.
This is exactly the type of guys that are weak. Victim mentality people. As a man, you cannot classify yourself as a victim. That's not possible. When you're a victim, you take away all your power because you think that whatever you do in the society, you can't change anything. You're a victim. Women back in the day didn't have the opportunities that they have today. That's true. Similarly for black people, that's very true. However, what permitted the women to go into the workplace? People think it's feminism. That's not true. What permitted women to go into the workplace is technical innovations. First, birth control. Secondly, the way to control periods. These are the two innovations that permitted women to join the workplace. They just couldn't before. That's the reality. So women were not oppressed. They had a different job because they just couldn't be in the workplace with men. That was the reality. Back in the day, the jobs were much more demanding as well. People have to understand that men were not oppressing women, but there were limits due to biology for women to be in the workplace. That was the reality. At the end of the day, whatever happened to you, even if you've been through terrible things, even if your experiences were terrible, never fall into the victim narrative. That's not going to help you. That's going to keep you down, and you won't be able to exploit your potential. Let's continue.
Let's take a job where men and women both participate. Like World Cup's going on right now. Look at the U.S. American men's team and the women's team.
So people are complaining about gender pay gap for football. It's very concerning to see young people that do not understand how market work, how the world work, how finance and economy works. The money doesn't come from the sky. Even though people love benefits, the money doesn't come from the sky. It comes from people working. When you are in an industry, the money comes from the revenues that you generate. If you do not generate revenue, the money is not going to come. And this is why the women's sport is getting paid less in terms of money, but they are getting paid more in terms of the percentage of the revenue they generate. And that's the reality. It would be ridiculous for a guy to ask, I want to be paid as much as a female model. I want to be paid as much as the other OnlyFans account. It wouldn't make any sense. Because we know that there are things that women get paid much more than men, and there are things that men get paid much more than women. Not because of their gender, but because of the revenue. They are making money, they are generating attention. If you're a young man, I recommend strongly to read economic books. And one of my favorite economic books is Basic Economy by Thomas Sowell. I recommend strongly to read it. Let's continue.
One of the problems is consent is not always clearly communicated, and I think that's one of the things that has kind of been weaponized against men, whether the woman wasn't excited about it, or she didn't like the guy, or she was drunk, or all these things that they can use to remove their consent and their responsibility in that. It would ruin the romantic image of that guy if he asked to kiss you, or if he asked to have sex with you at every single point.
Yeah.
That's very true. That's a very true point. You cannot be intimate with a woman if you ask consent at every single step. It wouldn't work. It just wouldn't work. It will turn the woman off. It will turn you off. So of course you need to have consent. The consent is provided at different points. If you do not want to have sex with someone, then probably do not go to a hotel room with that person. Probably do not go to the house of that person. That would be a good start. And of course, you can always say at some point, I don't want to do that. I don't want to have sex with you. And the other person should respect this opinion. But today, we are criticizing people where there was no clear indication that the person didn't want to have sex. Because what tends to happen in a lot of campuses is that young people will get drunk. Both the women and the men. And what tends to happen is that they will have sex. So none of them could actually be in the state to make the decision. So whose fault is it? Because both of them were drunk. Whose fault is it that they had sex? Was it the man's fault because he's supposed to be better at handling alcohol? If both people are drunk and probably they do not even remember what happened the day before, then whose fault is it that they had sex? Is it the woman's fault or the man's fault? That's going to be interesting.
As a black kid, I was taught that if you engage in a romance with a white woman, it's a possibility that she might falsely accuse you of something.
Yeah.
So I've always been, I guess you can say hyper consensual.
Right.
This young man is 20, so he was born in the 2000s or the 19s. This guy is talking like he was in the 50s or the 60s. Is he insane? This is a very racist comment. What the hell? Because you're engaging in relationship with a white woman, you got to be careful that she doesn't accuse you of rape. This guy is very racist. He's a pure racist. And no one is actually acknowledging this comment. Let's continue.
Is to an extent leading men to want to take advantage of women is the very pressure put on by other men.
Yeah.
That if you're not sleeping around, if you're not getting laid, you aren't and that doesn't come from women, at least from my experience.
That's
and
patriarchal culture.
This guy believes that having sex with a woman is taking advantage of the woman. Do you see his mindset? That's ridiculous. Sexual intercourse, making love, is something that is beneficial to both parties when it's done properly. Thinking that sex is only taking advantage of someone, this guy has some issues. That's very concerning. I would be very careful around him. Because sex is taking advantage of women. That's crazy. That's a crazy comment. Let's continue.
I'll say this now. I didn't lose my virginity until I was 22. Now I'm fine with that. If you asked me at 21 how I felt about that, I would change the subject as quickly as I possibly could because I was ashamed.
They make movies about it.
Women do not want feminine men. Women don't want to sleep with weak men. Women do not want feminist male. That's the reality. This is why it was very difficult for him to lose his virginity. And this is why he probably see having sex with the woman as taking advantage of the woman. When you go into a relationship, when you go into some type of exchange with a woman, and you believe that having sex is taking advantage, women are going to spot it from very far, very, very far. And at the end of the day, women do not like weak men. Very, very interesting. Let's continue.
We've been asking, what does patriarchy mean, right? You know, I don't think it just means male-led. What I'm trying to dismantle is the institutions in our society reinforcing that males are superior. A lot of societal institutions and staples of our society are reinforcing that narrative that men alone have to take on that mantle of being the one to provide, being the one to lead the charge on fixing a problem.
Women want competent men. Again, women want men that can fix their problems, fix their issues. That's the reality. It's not a society thing. It's not ingrained in the institutions. Women do not like weak men. That's the reality. If you're a weak man, it's going to be very difficult for you to find a woman. Of course, some women wouldn't mind this. Some women are happy to earn more than the men. But these are a minority of women. The vast majority of women want a man on their level, financially. On their level in terms of ambition, at least. Or even more. If a woman is into fitness, she would want her man to be even more into fitness. If she's making 100k a year, she wants her man to make 200k a year. It's not based on the patriarchy. It's based on what women want.
Staples of our society of being the one to provide.
And women do not like to be the main breadwinner as well. It's funny because as much as women are earning much more money, they always want a man that earns more money. So if you're a man and you're listening to this speech, this is just rubbish. Women will not tolerate a man that earns less money. And by the way, the fact that a woman is getting an increase in her salary is usually accelerating the probability of divorcing. So as a man, you have to make sure that you're on top in terms of your finance. Let's watch the last extract.
Not being tough and not like, being able to go through a lot, but being aware when you're going through something, when you're struggling, being able to articulate that, right? And doing it to the right people at the right time. I think that is what strength is. And I think that that's a positive message that we could communicate to the next generation about masculinity.
Yes, being able to acknowledge your emotions, why not? But men need a certain level of stoicism. We don't do things because we want to do them. We don't go to work every single day because we like going to work. There are a lot of cases where you have, as a man, to show stoicism. You have to be able to continue whatever the situation. And stoicism is being used everywhere in all aspects of life. If you want to be in the best shape of your life, physically, you have to be stoic. There are times where your body is in pain. You haven't recovered from your previous workout. You still have to go. You go back home. You're tired. You still have to take care of your kids. That's the reality. And your wife has an issue. You still have to fix it, even if you're not feeling that well. Men cannot be controlled solely by their emotions. There are a lot of cases where men have to show stoicism. If you like this video, feel free to subscribe and leave a like. And also, if you enjoyed it, there's another video about feminists versus anti-feminists. It was very heated. Enjoy.